Requiescat in pace. What is up, ladies and gentle dudes? Kyle here, and today we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed. Now, before we get into Assassin's Creed, I'd like to give you a little lesson which will apply heavily to this film.
Today's lesson is about the axis of action.
The axis of action is a very straightforward, commonplace technique in film. I wouldn't even say it's a technique, it's a rule that's in place so you don't make a fucking mess of your movie. Now, most audiences might not have heard of this, but they will definitely know what I'm talking about once I get into it. For example, okay, let's say that I am in a dialogue scene with somebody that's over here to my right. Now, there's multiple ways to shoot a dialogue scene, but, the typical way would be to shoot face-to-face, or, with over-the-shoulder shots, or, from the side. So I would be sitting like this, okay, talking to somebody like this, and then the other person would be sitting over there talking to me like this. Pretty straightforward, right? Well, the reason why we know this cinematic language is because we stick to this set of rules. With the axis of action, when you're shooting like a two-person dialogue scene like that, there is always going to be an invisible line, basically dictating where you can shoot. And you do not cross that line. Now, you can go anywhere within 180 degrees of that line. Okay, let's say it's like a top-down view. Okay, so this is me, this is the subject. It's, it's like an arc. Okay, it goes like this, before like this, like this. If you break that 180 degree line, you're going to start to confuse the audience and throw them off. Their brain will adjust, but it's definitely going to leave a negative impact on them, and they're not going to be fully invested in your scene because you're breaking this cinematic language that they're used to. That's not to say that you can't break that rule, but it's highly recommended that you stick to that rule because that's quality filmmaking, and if you break the rule, you better have a good fucking reason to do it. Assassin's Creed breaks this rule all the goddamn time, and they don't have a good reason for doing it. With that out of the way, let's get into what Assassin's Creed is. Assassin's Creed is a film based on the wildly popular Ubisoft game franchise Assassin's Creed. There's been like fucking 20 games in the franchise already, and it's only been around for about 10 years. The thing is that Assassin's Creed has a pretty solid premise behind it. The games are a great starting point. They had some of the most interesting stories in video gaming in quite a while. Obviously, there were a lot of issues with the way some of those stories played out in the games. They started off pretty solid. And basically what the premise behind Assassin's Creed is that there's this machine called the Animus. People get put into the machine, and then they can witness the memories of their ancestors by utilizing genetic code. The reason why they do this is because there's an evil company out there that is looking for artifacts of power. With the first few games, the main artifact of power they were looking for was this thing called the Apple of Eden, and that controls free will. The Assassin's Creed movie deals with the same premise. Unfortunately, the filmmakers did not know how the fuck to handle this at all. Zero love and care was put into the actual handling of the story. With the Assassin's Creed games, they always try to throw a little bit of history in there. They try to keep it lighthearted, and they try to, inject just a little bit of levity and humor into the proceedings so you're invested in what's going to happen next. But, you got fucking assassins palling around with Leonardo da Vinci and shit. They're meeting historical figures, and they're dicking around, or the historical figure is integrated into the plot to where they're essential, and then some big event that we're used to or have heard about pops up in the middle of the story. Spoilers, it's a shitty movie, and so I'm going to be delving into spoilers because I just feel like you shouldn't pay to see this movie. In fact, I saw this movie for free, okay? I got to see it for free for buying a fucking video game, and I want my money back. It's that bad. There's myriad issues, so I'm going to try and break it up and make it as straightforward as possible why you should not see this movie. So we'll start out with story.
Here comes the synopsis. And a bit of spoilers.
The story in this film is very threadbare. It's basically what I boiled down before. This guy, Calum Lynch, I believe his name is given the death penalty for killing somebody. It's never explicitly stated who he is or exactly why he did it, aside from the guy was a pimp and some throwaway line. Calum Lynch is portrayed by Michael Fassbender. He's given a lethal injection, which turns out to be some horse tranquilizers or some shit. He's taken from the viewing gallery and then transported to this facility where this evil company Abstergo is trying to figure out the location of this Apple of Eden. Calum Lynch does not want to be a part of it, and so it's up to Marion Cotillard, I think that's how you pronounce her name, to try and convince him to go along with this and help them get the Apple of Eden. And she's also pressured by her father to do this. It's fucking boring. I know exactly what happens in the film, but it's like I just tried to tune out as much as possible, because even when you're in the action scenes, it's boring. The way they try to coax this information out of Calum is by putting him in the Animus device that I was talking about. The Animus, instead of being a straightforward like bed that you lay in, or like a chair or something like that, for some reason the filmmakers decided to make it this gigantic, ridiculous metal arm that you can interact with, which makes no fucking sense. Abstergo is a company that is run by Templars. Their goal is to eliminate the assassins and get rid of free will and violence. That's apparently their whole plan, is to just control the world by using this Apple of Eden. The device that they're using, its main purpose would be to train assassins, not to gain information, which is what they're doing. Like, they have an entire facility filled with people that have the memories of assassins in their genetic code, and they basically trained all of them using the fucking Animus. Like, that goes against what they're trying to do. And even at the end of the film, there's an entire breakout sequence where the assassins get together and they just murder the shit out of everybody in Abstergo, because they got training from the Animus, and also this bleeding effect from the Animus. But mainly is because they're in there, they have access to the memories, and they're moving around, and they're climbing on fucking walls and shit, and they're doing sword fights and all this other stuff. Abilities that they probably wouldn't have if they were just stuck in a regular ass bed or chair. The reason why we know that this thing would have to have been used for training is because every single fight sequence in this movie is intercut with fucking Calum Lynch in the Animus. The director of this film, or the editor, whoever was in charge of the final cut, they must have just fucking hated action scenes, because every single time we are dropped into an action scene, it cuts away from the action to show somebody in the fucking Animus. Every single time it shows Calum doing some stupid shit in the Animus. And it's pointless. You show it once and then that's it. That's all you need to do. There's all this other random shit that's going on in the story that's just kind of convoluted. Calum doesn't want to go in the Animus, so it's causing these issues where he is not synchronized with his ancestor, this guy named Aguilar. So every single time they get close to getting a piece of information, he decides that he doesn't want to be there, and so eventually that causes him to get out of sync. In one of these sequences, he almost has a brain aneurysm. Like, he has a seizure, but they've mentioned that, it's possible for him to get a brain aneurysm if he keeps doing this shit. Our big bad for the movie, who's played by Jeremy Irons, I don't remember this guy's fucking name in the movie, he decides that this isn't working, so he goes to Calum and he says, "Look, man, you gotta want to be in the Animus. I will help you get revenge on your dad who killed your mom if you're down to go back in there. But you gotta want to do it." Then he gives him a knife, and then he shows him that his dad was locked up in the same facility as him, because he was also an assassin. And the issue with this film is that it introduces so much shit that is not essential to the plot and is not interesting. It gets weighed down by this. I want to say the movie is like almost 2 hours long, but I swear to God, it felt like I was watching a Lord of the Rings movie. It felt like it was 3 hours long. There were multiple times where I almost walked out of the fucking movie because it was so boring. It would have been on my worst of 2016 list if I had seen this last year. And thank God I didn't. The main thing is, like I said, it doesn't have any heart. There's no levity. There's nothing. They could have injected it in so many times. Like, one of the things about the game is that, this whole desynchronized thing that they introduced in the movie where he doesn't want to be in the Animus, that wasn't in the games. And I don't think they should have tried to have any justification for it. Otherwise, it's putting the character's life in danger. We know that he's not gonna die because you want to make this a fucking 15 film franchise. And trust me, they want to do that because at the very end of the fucking movie, there's 5 endings that hint at where else they could go with this. But after this, I don't want to see any fucking Assassin's Creed movie ever. Even if they completely retooled it, they would have a lot of shit to do to make it watchable. The thing is, they could have had, an awesome gag in the opening, when we're still getting used to the characters, where Callum Lynch is, strapped into this Animus, and, he's fucking shit up in this really crazy action scene. For example, they show this in the trailers. There's a scene where he jumps onto this cart where they're carrying this prisoner, and the cart is about to go off the edge of a cliff. The cart does end up going off the cliff, but he just magically throws a rope, and he's able to hang onto the cliff and climb up the rope, and then he's cornered by bad guys. Well, it would have been way fucking funnier if they took a cue from the game and actually had him desynchronized because he died, which didn't happen in the past, obviously. So, he just crashes and then instantly dies, and he just, is thrown out of the Animus. What the fuck happened? That would have been funny. That would have been a way for me to get into the movie where they acknowledge the source material and acknowledge how goofy the technology is, but also that, our character is unprepared for what is happening. But instead, it's just handled completely straight-faced the entire time. It just kills any momentum that the movie might have had going for it. So there's a lot of story issues, and I just don't want to bog down the rest of the video by talking about them like they bogged down the movie. So let's move on.
Let's talk about editing.
The editing in this film is some of the worst fucking editing I have ever seen. Oh my god, man. Particularly, it's with the action scenes. Like I said, it doesn't seem like the director or the editor wanted to be in the action scenes. They're like, oh, well, we would much rather be in a present day. There's 3 fucking action scenes in this movie, and only one of them lasts longer than 2 minutes, I would say. More specifically, I should say that there's only 3 action scenes that take place in the past. The one action scene that lasts longer than 2 minutes, man, I got motion sickness in the theater because it is shot in this way that is just fucking horrendous. The main characters escape from this arena, or Coliseum, whatever. They are escaping from a bunch of Templars that are chasing after them. Through the streets, through alleyways, climbing up buildings, doing all this parkour shit. That could have been a really cool and fun sequence. The way it is shot is so disorienting because it starts out with a bird's eye view shot, right? So it's the camera is above the fucking person that they're following. Then it cuts to a close-up of their face, and then it goes to a medium shot of them running, and then it goes to a first-person shot of him using a fucking bow and arrow, and then it goes down to a fucking low-angle shot from a handheld camera when everything else was on, a jib arm or a dolly. It's just chaos, man. It's fucking chaotic. And there's no way to focus on what is actually happening in the scene because it just constantly is darting around. And the axis of action is broke so many fucking times. They get cornered in this alleyway, and then all of a sudden you're looking and Aguilar shoots an arrow at one dude, but then the camera completely whips around and shows somebody taking out somebody else, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then somehow they escape. They wasted 10 minutes on this action set piece, which could have been really awesome, and it's just it's a mess. You can't tell what the fuck is happening in it, so it just completely takes you out of the movie. I was in the audience. I was just shaking my head like this. I almost audibly was like, what the fuck are you doing? But there was other people in the theater, so obviously I couldn't do that. Like I said, one of the other big things about the editing is that every single time we get in an action scene, We also see fucking Caleb Lynch in the Animus. So you're juggling two different time periods, and you're basically adding scenes in there that don't need to be in there at all, except for some throwaway line from fucking Marion Cotillard, who's in some fucking control room. Like, literally, there's one scene where they cut away, and she goes, "Oh my god, he's synchronizing with fucking the assassin in the past." And then it cuts back to the action scene. We're supposed to be seeing from his point of view. Why can't we just have some audio going over it where, you know, she's commenting on what is going on or anything? Just something that makes more fucking sense than taking us out of the action, which is what most people are there to see. Nobody is there to see, the fucking life and times of some boring-ass prisoner over, badass assassins killing people. Nobody is there for the modern-day story. That's why Ubisoft almost completely cut those fucking parts out of the games, because they realize that's what people don't like about the franchise. They definitely didn't need to focus on it as much as they did. Another big thing that was really pissing me off was that the color grading in this movie is so bad. When we're in the present day, everything is just covered in this blue hue. It's like, it looks like they tried to put some really shitty underwater filter, which was obviously edited and, put in post. Like, it's not like a filter on the camera. And so the color grading is just bad there. But it gets even worse when you get to the past, because on top of it, it's completely like sandblasted, like dirty the entire time that we're in the past. You always have tones that are supposed to contrast for a film, and those are like the standard tones. Blue and orange go together, so most action films will use that as a color palette. I get it. But this film, every single time we go to a sequence that's in the past, to hide their fucking lack of budget for the CGI, everything is literally covered in a fucking cloud of sand. Like, it looks like there's just a constant sandstorm throughout the entire time period that it's taking place. We follow a fucking eagle for some reason into every scene in the past, and then the eagle drops down into some dudes fighting, and it's just covered in sand, so you can't tell what the hell is happening. And then we get to our actual scene. By the way, let's talk about a fun drinking game that you could play while watching Assassin's Creed. Anytime somebody says free will, take a shot. Anytime somebody says it's in your blood, take a shot. Anytime someone says cure for violence, take a shot. Anytime you see sand in the past, and I don't mean regular sand, I mean clouds of sand, take a shot. Anytime you see the stupid fucking eagle motif pop its ugly ass head out of anywhere, take a shot. You will die. You will fucking die. The only positive aspect of this movie would be the production design. Michael Fassbender and the rest of the cast were completely underutilized, but the one thing that they got right was the production design. The assassins' costumes look cool. The set design is actually pretty impressive. The Abstergo facility looks like something straight out of the video games. You could definitely go like, oh yeah, that looks like something out of Assassin's Creed. The sets in the past, although minuscule, did look decent until they put that ugly-ass cloud of sand over everything. But everything else, it stands out, and like, if this was in a decent movie, I would have been satisfied with it. The only thing that I would say that they got wrong was the Apple of Eden, because in the games, it's this gigantic shiny gold orb. And then in the movie, it's this tiny little fucking thing like this big. It's this fucking big. Okay, whereas in the games and shit, it's like this big. For some reason, it's like this ugly, like caramel color instead of just like a bright, like glowing orb. Oh, you know what? Actually, the opening sequence for the movie was cool because we got to see somebody getting indoctrinated into the assassins, but then immediately we cut to something far less interesting. Fuck this movie, man. Like, this is the type of shit that always is really hard to talk about because it's just so fucking horrible. I could go on for another hour and I wouldn't be satisfied with tearing this thing apart. I've already talked for 30 fucking minutes and I haven't even scratched the surface. So let's just get to the bottom of it. This, hands down, was the worst movie of 2016, and I am sorry that I didn't put this on my list, but I am more sorry that I actually watched this fucking thing, and I am sorry to anybody who actually spent their money on it. I wish that there was some way that we could sue Fox for putting out this piece of shit. So, the bottom line is that movie is 100% the first 0 out of 10 that I'm giving. And I swear to God, I am gonna lose it if they somehow are able to make a sequel to this, because it was fucking horrible, and this is the type of shit that kills Hollywood. Alright, thanks for tuning in. Catch you around soon. Hopefully, we will talk about something better.
Hey guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you really dug it, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, 2 other videos down here for you. Promise the reviews are not as brutal or as long as this one, and I'll catch you soon.